last segment, we were discussing a subject near and dear to many black male Gen Xers, the feminization of black men, and I want people to consider something about society and the way it's arranged. Society, particularly American society, exists by creating and then reinforcing power dynamics where power is concentrated in the few, and where the many end up having to be exploited by that power structure. Now, one of the tactics that power structure uses is something called naturalization. They try to make the fact of their power natural. When white people have had and have a monopoly on power, they portray themselves as more temperate, more intelligent. When rich people who still exist in the upper echelon society, they naturalize their power by saying they earned it. They naturalize their power by saying that they're smarter than you. Now, in an American context, power has generally been white and male. Power has generally been white and male, and one of the mechanisms of naturalization for white male power has been the idea that they are more capable, that they are more competent, that they are more intelligent, and what they do is they use both biological arguments, and they use both kind of utilitarian arguments where they say, well, we're here because we can do more than you. Now, one of the first things that you have to take in as a conscious member of society, you have to take in the fact that people in power are going to be lying, or are going to continue to lie to you. They're going to lie both about their characteristics and capabilities, and they're going to lie about the way power functions, because the way power functions, it's not taken by virtue. It's taken by force. It's not taken by virtue, it's taken by force. And so I want us to consider, if you will, the way those arguments in favor of power can influence the way we understand, the way we relate to not just our position in society, but also to things like things fundamental to us, like our maleness.
You done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. I want to jump in.
Yeah, please, by all means, first.
The problem with that argument, to me, Antoine, is this. One thing we're here to do is determine our own narrative.
Right.
And if we were following the same power structure, I would say I agree with you. Throughout slavery, we fought together for our freedom. Men and women.
Men and women
led the charge.
Right.
Men and women led the charge.
That's right.
Sometimes there were women at the front, sometimes there were men at the front. Throughout the civil rights movement.
That's right. Black Power movement too.
We have been, I'm leading up to that. There have been men and women.
That's right.
That have led the charge.
That's right.
Fast forward to the 70s, Black Power, Black Panthers.
Yep.
Many women died in the struggle. Many women were on the front lines and will continue to be on the front lines. That has no bearing on the expectation of our women to stand up for them and protect them, because they're important. Again, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. We have an obligation to protect the things that are important to them. White men don't value their women. They protect them because they feel that they belong to them. You understand what I'm saying? Our women are important to us because they stood the test of time with us. They came through the same struggle. They came through the Middle Passage. They endured rape. They endured abuse. They endured being baby mills. You understand what I'm saying? They endured things with us. This is why we protect our women, not because they are weak and they can't fight. We protect our women because they were in the struggle and are still in the struggle with us. That's why our fight is different. So what you're saying would apply if we were following that same dynamic, but our dynamic is different because our women are still being maligned and mistreated, not because they are weak, but because they are black. And if they keep them disconnected from us and us from them, we will continue to be weak. Black men get emasculated and feminized, and it keeps us away from each other as well. So we don't even protect one another. We'll stand around with our video cameras, video instead of coming to the aid of one another, Antoine. I protect you, not because you're weak, because you're important to me. You understand what I'm saying? So don't tell me about a power dynamic that's portrayed by white society. because I'm not a part of that society. My power dynamic is different because my history is different. My now is different. So I have to understand that I'm following a different drummer. I'm going to fight for women and children because they came through the same struggle, because they're still being victimized simply because they're black. You understand what I'm saying? It has nothing to do. I understand wholeheartedly what you're saying, but that don't apply to us.
Okay, and first off, I just want to say I felt that, Herschel. I'm right there with you. I more or less agree with you, but I want us to consider this, and now I want you to just interrupt me if I'm portraying your argument correctly. But I think that what it sounds like you're saying, the way you contextualize, the way you discuss, the way we endured, the way we created resistance, not in a male way or a female way, but together, that the elements, the structures of patriarchy had limited bearing in our community. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And my contention is this. Power dictates the circumstances of resistance. Because we are in a capitalist society, we are capitalists. Because we are in a white supremacist society, we are prone to internalizing racism. And because we are in a sexist and patriarchal society, I think that we are not immune to the tenets and fixtures of patriarchy and sexism. And I want us to think, and I'm actually going to speak exclusively to black men here. I want us to think very, very intimately about how a fixation on the idea that, I'm the man of the house, I should do this. I'm the man of the house, I should do that. I want us to think about how status is for some man.
That's a mischaracterization of the argument that we're having.
Let me finish. No, it's not. Let me finish, and I'll tell you why. I want us to consider the way a perception of status and the definition of status is intimately tied to our understanding of what being a man is. Despite the fact that patriarchy has very distorted and very different dynamics in our community for historical reasons and because of racism, despite that fact, that does not necessarily mean that we as black men are immune to categorizing our women in a way that paints them as lesser than. That doesn't mean that we are immune to things that make the possibility of rape or abuse prominent. That doesn't mean that we are immune to the idea that black female households can be are weakening us as a people or limiting what our status should be as men. I think that we should consider how existing in a patriarchal context influences the expectations that we have of ourselves.
I will say this, and I hear you. I hear you, and I respectfully disagree with most of it, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
You can't teach what you don't know. You can't teach what you've never done. If I've never done physics, I can't teach it. I can teach my daughters. I have 4 daughters. I can teach them how to be young ladies. I can teach them what my perception of being a woman is. I've never been a woman. I can be the best father on this earth. I cannot be a mother to my girls. That is not a character flaw. That's a fact. So the same way, how can a woman raise she can raise a young man. She can raise him to be a gentleman. There's certain things that only a man can teach a boy. There's some things only a female. Listen, there's some things. Let me tell you something. How the proper way to be a man. A woman can't teach him how to be a man. That's not fair. Antoine, so you're telling me a woman can teach a boy how to be a man? You're telling me a man can teach a girl?
What is being a man?
Being a man is a lot of things. Distilling it. Okay.
Please.
Yes. Okay. Being a man is being able to take responsibility for your own actions. It's being.
That's something a woman can do. By the way.
Being. There's certain things that a woman's gonna look for in a man. And again, without making things overly personal, if you don't interact with women, if you can show me women that want what you say, I'm not saying they don't exist. I think that everybody should agree. There's actually, when we first started the show,
I used to mention books to read. I think that everybody should sit down and read the Combahee River Collection Statement. It is a group of black female nationalists who were operating in the Panthers, who operated in the Black Power movement, who operated in the Civil Rights movement, and the SNCC as powerful organizers in the community. And they wrote a letter about how feminism did not comment on their status as black women, and black nationalism did not comment on their status as black women. How they were failed both by white women and by black men because black men could not correctly internalize their condition and would not respond specifically to sexism. That statement is a public record. This is the Combahee River Collection Statement. I will post it on Facebook today. I want everybody to read that because women have been theorizing about these absences since they've been fighting for power. The women's suffrage movement was an interesting movement precisely because it was mostly white women who were speaking against black men getting rights, and black women were saying, "What about me?"
Right.
Now again, women like Bell Hooks, women like Angela Davis, women like Lorraine Hansberry. These are people who have theorized a position for black women, and they theorize a philosophy behind it. They call it womanism. Now, some people, they usually distill it to black feminism. I suppose you can call it that, but it's called womanism. And through womanism, they have documented the particular ways both sexism and racism impact them. And the reason why sexism and racism impacts them is because it comes from all directions, inside their family, outside their family. So again, I think that if you're not hearing, if people are not hearing women who are saying that we just have to expand our orbit to include the women that are making these statements.
And again, based on my interactions in my 52 years, 53.
We interacted with different women, Herschel.
I've interacted with women. I don't know what you've interacted with. That's why I'm speaking on me. Not a judgment. Not a judgment. I'm just saying. No. I'm just saying. Okay. I can. And when I say interactive, it's not always or all romantic. It's within social orbits as well.
Absolutely.
There are certain expectations of men that women have. There are certain expectations that are different. Most women, and I would venture to say all. Now, you may want to dissect it and play word games with it, but all women want to feel secure with whatever man they're with. They want to feel a certain security that the man will come to their aid or their defense, if warranted. Under your theory, I would only do, if I did that, I would be taking away her power. That's been my argument. This is my stand up.
No. Look, Herschel.
JD is in the house. Hey, JD.
Herschel on you.
Hey, JD.
Look. I think that part of the thing that expanding our reading to, I think that we as black men, we who consider ourselves black radicals, we who consider ourselves part of the black radical tradition in any respect, we have to take seriously the critiques from women in that tradition of the way black men engage themselves. There's actually a book, and again, this is both related and unrelated to our. I think you probably read it, Herschel. Mr. Cleaver, Eldridge Cleaver. He wrote a book called Soul on Ice. In that book, which everybody should read with a critical eye, in that book he discusses how he raped black women as practice to figure out how to rape white women. That's in the book. Now, we have to consider the way our posture towards women actually place them in a position where we force them to be subordinate to us in an organizational context. We have to interact with how the adoption and assimilation of patriarchy, which is a white philosophy, which is an imposed philosophy, we have to understand how the adoption of patriarchy in a black context actually put men in positions where they were unable to see the resources that black women could provide as equals in those organizations. And then we need to see how that weakened us. We need to see how that fractured us, how that brought cleavages against us, how that made us less likely to unify because black women in an organizational context couldn't trust you to check yourself and you were not curious enough to read them. We have to take this seriously.
No.
We do. We have to take this seriously. It's a thing that happened, and it's a thing that continues to happen. And we have to note how even modern movements, like the Vision for Black Lives, like Black Lives Matter, the people who were credited for creating Black Lives Matter, the organizers on the ground, it was mostly women who started. Now, it was not men men participated. Men were highly involved and organized at the highest level. But one of the reasons why they moved away from a traditional organizational structure is because they knew that it would eventually become a patriarchal structure like it was under the SCLC. We have to take these critiques seriously because they had to take them seriously at the time.
I will say this, Andrew. I hear in the world in which we live, optics is everything. Listen to what I'm saying. When you neuter or you feminize the male image of power, you make it okay for people to come in. You hear me? You make it okay to come in and abuse our children and our women. I didn't say that women couldn't fight. I didn't say our children couldn't fight. But it sounds awfully close to you abdicating your responsibility. Listen to what I'm saying. As a man, because here's the thing. They are less apt to come in that door if they see 10 strong black men standing out there. I don't give a damn what their sexuality is. If it's 10 black men standing out there and the women are in here doing what they have to do, they're not coming in that door. Now, if they see women out there, not to say that they'll get in the door, but they'll be more apt to try. Do you understand what I'm saying? So your black masculinity is on display. And it's no different than wearing blackface in the 50s. You make a buffoon out of yourself so people don't take you seriously. When black men stand up, it allows the whole movement to be strong. But when you look like a jackass wearing feathers and makeup and flouncing around, I'm not saying anything about your sexuality. I'm saying about the appearance of strength. So when the black man appears strong, people are less apt to try.
And it
won't stop them. It's not a guarantee, but they are less apt to try something when there's the appearance of strength. And strength is in the eye of the beholder. Because like you said, I'm not saying that women are weak, but in the society that we live in, they think that women are weak. But the reason our struggles have always prevailed is because our women fought with us. And this is why we have to stand up with our women and for our women at all times. And always be strong in our appearance.
Again, ask yourself this question. Look strong to who?
To the whole world.
No.
To the whole world.
What we're doing in that context is precisely what black people, what people in the civil rights movement were doing in the 60s. They were looking at society as constructed. They were looking at society as constructed, and they were reflecting their notions of both respectability and leadership. And those notions were both classist and sexist. So what happened? We ended up having a movement dominated top-heavy by male preachers. And the women who were doing just as much work behind the scenes ended up getting knocked aside, stepped on, and stepped over, while the men took leadership and the men took charge. Listen to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when we as a people are reflecting dynamics that are unjust, that are stupid, that are substanceless, that are based on appearance and not on reality, when we adopt things that we know are wrong, it weakens us. When we adopt things that we know are wrong, it takes away from our capacity to use resistance and to use radicalism to reshape and redefine what right should be.
Well, I'm going to ask you the same question you asked me.
Okay, by all means.
Now, like you said,
okay.
What if tomorrow we was all wearing dresses and makeup and carrying man back?
Okay.
How would it benefit us? Since you said
no.
You asked me what's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
You tell me what's the best case scenario.
There is no benefit. It's entirely neutral. There is no benefit. It is entirely neutral, and that's actually the point that I was making. In the context that we're in, where here's the problem here. I think that by an emphasis on narrative, an emphasis on image is not critical enough about who we are projecting that image to and at what expense. In the context that we are in, we should not be doing spot checks on each other where we're determining our strength and weakness based on what we're wearing personally.
It has total bearing, Antoine, because,
no, it really doesn't.
Because when your enemy comes, they're going to look for the weak link, not for the strong. But if
they're defining it by their own notions,
it doesn't matter. But again, this is what, again, these things are distractions to take away from us doing what we have to do.
I agree that they're distractions, but
so again, that's where the attack comes from.
They're distractions.
That's where the attack comes from. That's where the attack comes from.
The weak link is our response. It isn't them. It isn't them targeting the dresses.
So my response is, no, you need to stop wearing that dress because of. I didn't tell him who he needs to have sex with or who he had to love. I told him he needs to appear to be someone that his mother can depend on if something goes wrong. He needs to look like somebody you can depend on if you get accosted by the Klan or whomever. If you see him in a dress, you'll be like, nah, he ain't gonna help me because he don't want to break his nails or drop his purse. Has nothing to do with sexuality. What I'm saying is this.
If we're an actually organized community, we're not going to be doing spot checks to know who has the guns and who doesn't. We're going to be knowing them by name. We're going to know the security team by name. We're going to know them by their dress. We're going to know them by where they're standing and who they're organizing with. So, the reason why we're using spot checks is because we're not organized like that, Herschel.
And we're not educated. Aesthetics are very important, Antoine. Because let me tell you, for security purposes, there are reasons that
some aesthetics are important.
They're very important because
some are and some aren't.
Because the appearance, when there's a strong showing of strength, whether it's perceived or actual, it will lessen the odds of you being attacked straight on. It's not a guarantee, but it'll lessen. You take for instance, Mr. Farrakhan. We've talked about it.
Yeah, we have.
Whether you agree with him or not, whether you like him or not, he will always provide protection for black folks. Would you agree?
His organization.
His organization will. Right, that's what I'm saying. Now, here's my point. Now, I can't tell you if the FOI is armed. I can't tell you if they're prepared to listen. No. Listen to my point. Yep. I can't tell you what they're prepared to do or not to do. I can tell you this. It is a great deterrent for the powers that be. Yes or no? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, whatever's under that trench coat or not, whatever's under that suit or not, the appearance of strength itself, I can't tell you whether those men are straight, gay, pansexual. Again, it's about appearance. They don't get harassed because of the appearance of strength. They might be the weakest men in America. I don't know. You understand what I'm saying? And nobody knows, but it's enough of a deterrent. It's enough that you've never heard the police at anything attack the FOI or challenge them. Not because they don't know, but they show strength.
Now, I do want us to back up a little bit and look at this organization, because I think that one of the factors here is that a lot of people don't know who the FOI is. I could mention FOI in a black church, and I promise you that maybe 10% may know who the FOI is.
Maybe that.
Yeah. So I think that we might be overstating you might be overstating the way aesthetics are governed. The reason why the FOI is good is because they do crowd control.
But wait a minute.
Because they police perimeters.
The police know who they are, right?
Yeah, you very likely.
This is my point.
But the FOIs are just there for the police.
But it does keep the police
because they are organized.
And there's an appearance. There's an appearance of strength, whether it's perceived or actual. We don't know because we haven't seen. We've seen the FOI at different events.
Yeah.
I've never seen it challenged.
Personally, again,
I'm talking about the perception of the outside world. So the powers that be, the racist police, won't come in and attack. I've never seen them do it with the FOI person. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not saying it hasn't. I said I haven't seen it. Now, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me. I just haven't seen it.
I think that again, we need to look at it. We need to model the way black militias have formulated themselves in the past. Anything from the Deacons for Defense and Justice.
Look at the screen. Are we breaking up? We know we started pixelating.
No, we're fine. Yeah. Everything. Oh wow, you're right. That's interesting.
We started.
No. But what I was going to say was that I think that we need to look at black militias in practice. In black militias in practice, they generally emphasize both internal policing and a form of external protection from external forces. They generally are organized in a way so that they are looking at perimeters, are looking to see who's both outside certain perimeters and inside certain perimeters. And with the Deacons for Defense and Justice, not everybody knew that they were carrying. Not everybody knew who they were. But the police did. Oh no. Well, I think we have to be kind of careful of that because all the black people back then were armed.
And the police didn't know who was armed?
I think they assumed that all black people were armed.
Right. So the assumption was everybody was armed.
But I think that in this, the protection is not coming from the aesthetics. The protection is coming from the fact of organization.
The aesthetics.
You do not. Aesthetics are not a militia.
The aesthetics kept the powers to be at bay. Now, just because the police assumed that everybody was armed. People within the movement didn't assume that everybody was armed. So some of them thought they were out there on a limb with no protection.
Well, again, right? There was organizations, there was a rapport with the people who were involved. People knew who was armed and who wasn't. Now, if you're in a context where you know who's armed and who isn't, who's organized and who isn't, who's trained and who isn't, and who's under who, you don't care if they're wearing a dress or not. You just care whether or not they can be vouched for by their organization.
The powers that be, your enemy, is going to strategize on how to attack you based on what.
And they're going to be wrong. They're going to be wrong.
Based on the intel that they get.
We should not be determining tactics based on the misconceptions of our enemies.
Antoine, it weakens.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
Weakness is not determined by how your enemy judges you.
Sure it is.
No, it's not.
Sure it is.
It is not.
Okay.
I'm not going to give white people control and say over how my community dresses or looks.
It's not a matter of.
I'm not.
Antoine, I just. You can't tell me that men dressing feminine is a neutral action.
It is.
It is not. You have some kids and tell me how your kids. Again, listen. Let me tell you something. When you raise children, you'll see how it affects them. I hear you, Antoine. You have some children and see how the things that they see on TV.
I don't think you know how children behave in this generation, Russell. I don't think you've seen